Professor Didi here, talking more about international relations. Today's topic is theories of world politics. And this kind of ties a lot of stuff in regarding international relations, international politics in general. And for many people who teach international relations, this is kind of the crux of everything. So if you're struggling with this type of course, this is really important information. There are different levels of analysis that basically come to different questions about how to look at international situations. And there's three levels. And the first level is individual level of analysis. It focuses when studying international relations, studying personality traits, experiences, and psychological factors of those basically responsible for making decisions. Another way of looking at this is what makes people tick. Understanding people, understanding Hitler, understanding Putin, understanding Churchill, understanding FDR, understanding the individual and sometimes the reasoning behind their decisions. And looking at the causes of war, the individual analysis looks at aggressive traits of leaders, misconceptions by leaders, communication failures by leaders, preconceived notions. Believing weapons of mass destruction are around doesn't make it so. The individual level of analysis seeks to find specific factors that account for and even predict an individual's behavior. This is very important in trying to figure things out. When you think about this, you can go back to Vietnam in some ways. Kennedy saw the communist influence as economic more than political. Lyndon Johnson, the complete opposite. One of my favorite quotes when thinking about the individual level of analysis comes from Bill Clinton. And what he said is, great presidents get a lot of other people to do great things. Leaders' personal characteristics are influential in shaping world events. When you think about leaders, they want to be peacemakers. They want their legacy to last forever. The impact of a leader's personal characteristics and their overall foreign policy objectives are very important to study when looking at things. The second level of analysis is the domestic and state level analysis, examining the effects of domestic institutions and cultures, and what factors inside a country account for their decisions on the world stage. Foreign policy in the Middle East is often driven by the natural resource of oil and the dislike for Israel. The internal process of how states and leaders make decisions and the characteristics of the state is significant. And what causes war and what affects foreign policy? The domestic level of analysis looks at the type of government a country has, the struggles between groups inside the country, geography. Adjoining states are more likely to engage in war due to their proximity next to each other. The risk of civil war is the greatest in countries where there is overpopulation of large proportion of young people, mainly young unemployed males. Democratic governments use force against non-democracies, but they rarely make war against democracies. One school of thought on the individual level of analysis focuses on the role of political culture, how citizens in different groups and societies and countries perceive, respond to, and involve themselves in government and politics. In countries where there's not a lot of political activism, look for authoritarianism. The last level of analysis is the systemic level of analysis, focusing on the whole international system, the impact of international structures, the pattern of interactions among political actors on the global stage. When you think about that, multinational corporations, intergovernmental organizations, and looking at what causes war, the systemic level of analysis looks at anarchy, the lack of an arbitrator, and also examines power. Cooperation is possible when there's mutual benefits for other countries and the security questions are dealt with. Finding a way to basically make nice. How can one strategic action help another country in a different area? Another action along this line is something when you look at the systemic level is a concept called game theory. This is where basically you look at international situations like games. Stag hunt focuses on the role of trust in cooperative endeavors. Two hunters can jointly work together to hunt a large stag. a large meal, or individually hunt a rabbit, tasty but less filling. Prisoner's dilemma. Two suspects are arrested by the police. The police have weak evidence for conviction, so what they do is they separate the people. They visit each one of them, offering to make a deal. If one testifies for the prosecution against the other remains silent or cooperates. The betrayer goes free, and the silent accomplice receives a 10-year sentence. The key in Prisoner's Dilemma is, in many ways, for both parties to shut up and say nothing. But a lot of times people don't want a heavy sentence. So what they do is they're willing to sacrifice the one person for a benefit for themselves and take the risk. The definition of theory is a set of statements to explain a certain idea. Each theory rests on guesses about the nature of international politics and advances a variety of recommendations. One of the most popular theories in international relations is realism. It looks at power and the nature of humans in shaping international relations. Realism prioritizes national interest and security rather than ideals, social issues, or ethics. The term is synonymous with power politics. States prioritize survival. Human beings are predisposed to conflict. States don't want to face each other as individuals. They want to face each other as states. Politics is not about ethics. It's interest and power. Power, geography, and natural resources and population are realist concepts in international relations. One of the leading realists in history, besides Thucydides, a Greek historian, was a man named Machiavelli, who urged leaders to be absolutely ruthless. His name is synonymous with deviousness and shrewdness. Machiavellian describes a politician who manipulates others for their own gain or agenda. Machiavelli is really the founder in many ways of the pure realist concept. Do whatever you have to do. Machiavelli said a prince must always show himself a lover of virtue and be quick to honor those who excel in various arts. But he had no political commitments. He wrote the famous expression, "the end justifies the means." He said if a ruler makes one miscalculation, all the authority he has cultivated will dry up like morning dew. Machiavelli believed a republic, where it has general popular support, and the U.S. is a republic, is the best and most stable form of government. He argues any moral judgment should be second to getting and increasing and maintaining power. He said it's good to be true to your word, but you should lie whenever it advances your power and security. Not only that, it's necessary. States are the most important actors in world politics, since it does not answer to a higher authority. Cooperation will be rare because states want to come out winners. At times, people don't want a situation in world politics where everyone gets the equal. Someone wants to be a winner, someone wants to see the other person as a loser. Realists have no problem using force in using power. War is an acceptable part of foreign policy. In the 20th century, realism became very popular before World War II in reaction to the failed diplomatic efforts to secure world peace. Realists like Henry Kissinger, John Dulles, and George Kennan portrayed a pessimistic view of the world. The Cold War supported the realist emphasis on conflict and poor propositions and outcomes for basically cooperation. Realists see the world in conflict. And one thing I want to make clear about realism, sometimes you have to go to war. Negotiation wasn't going to deal with Hitler. Sometimes the only option is warfare. The balance of power theory means that peace will result when military power is distributed so no one state can be strong enough to dominate over the others. And for the balance of power theory to work, everyone's got to be vigilant. Alliances have to be flexible. The problem is, with balance of power theory is sometimes people don't want the balance. And if there is a balance, they want the balance to favor themselves. Another theory in world politics is liberalism. It argues anarchy and violence in the international system can be overcome by the development of institutions and agreements to overcome the chaotic nature of the international community. Cooperation is critical in the idea of liberalism. The idea is that everyone gets something. The variable sum game refers to the idea of a potential for mutual benefits and relationships between states. If you want to think about it, even with the Iran nuclear deal that Obama negotiated, everybody getting something. Liberalism writings go back to the era of John Locke and Adam Smith. Realists believe in the zero-sum game. There's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser. Liberals focus on the individual level of analysis, stressing personal characteristics and personality traits in international relations. Liberals emphasize ideas, social issues, progress and ethics, and mutual gains. Liberals view the individual as the moral authority. Liberalism thought started a lot after World War I with Woodrow Wilson. Wilson wanted a lasting peace after World War I. He thought that if we could get a lasting peace after that war, it would be the war that ended all wars. That's why he was such a strong supporter of the League of Nations. The goal was to provide collective security, where aggression by any state would be met by a collective response of everybody. The problem is that with the League of Nations, the U.S. didn't join because Americans didn't want to be part of this. The key in this concept is universal participation. In other words, all for one, everyone involved. Liberals feel war is less likely between two democracies. President Roosevelt continued the liberalism of Wilson in foreign policies. I mentioned war before. There's a concept called the Just War Doctrine, originating by Aristotle. Just war theorists say war is permissible when it's a just cause, with the right intention, when it's the last resort, and declaration by a legitimate authority, and also a reasonable chance for success. But you can see, even with those concepts, there's wiggle room. Realists complain that liberals tend to turn foreign policy into a moral crusade, and sometimes it gets down to the concept of the carrot and the stick. The last thing I want to mention is a concept known as the Feminist Critique. Feminists note that both the exclusion of women in discussions about international affairs and a variety of things is unequal to women. Feminists explore how different gender identities shape foreign policy decision-making. Feminists differ in the importance placed on the difference between men and women, but agree on the need to focus on the role of women as a whole, not just as female leaders. Feminist scholars say historically the overwhelming majority of actors in the area of conflict, politics, and economic have been men. Thus, the study of international politics has been biased towards conflict, whereas women are seen in the traditional roles of health, education, and childcare. Feminism focuses more on the role of women in the international system. Lastly, the criteria to judge a theory. Is the theory clear? Can a theory be proven wrong? Is it simple to understand and not complex? The last thing I want to say about all this is there's a lot of interesting aspects of international relations. You just can't take one thing and cookie cutter it for everything. Sometimes realism works, sometimes liberalism works. Sometimes the individual level of analysis solves a lot of things, and sometimes it's other levels that can lead you somewhere. Take care. Have a good day.